Hello friends, and welcome back to the live workshop on segment 6, which is how to perceive communication. And there will be a longer introduction, so if you want to skip to the part about communication, I will add a timestamp into the comment to this video. And before I get into communication, I want to tell you how we got here, because it's been a long time since my last video. I think about a year. A lot has happened, so I just want to give again an introduction what Entrypoint Academia is and what Entrypoint philosophy is. And all of it started in my life in 2018, and basically since then I started perceiving the reality around me differently. I think from today's point of view, I would say that I would compare it to watching a horror movie, and you can watch it one way, which is that you get you're inside of the story and you experience the fear. And the other way is that you look at it from a movie making point of view, that you imagine the cameras, the actors, and that way it takes the fear out of it. And what happened to me is that I sort of stepped away from being so emotionally involved in my own life, and I started being more of an observer, and this dramatically changed my life and put a lot of new insights in my life. And some of the insights, I recorded videos, you can check them over here. And eventually as I was keeping track of what I do differently, I realized that it's based on certain principles, and I formulated them into something which I called Entrypoint philosophy. So I live by Entrypoint philosophy. And because what I've seen how it helps other people around me, I decided to publish it. And the way to publish it is actually quite simple. I divided the whole thing into segments. There are actually 9 segments, and as of today, I've been able to record the first 6, and they actually, you can imagine that the first one is the most important one, and as you go higher, they are not as important, but all of them are important. So the first one is how to perceive reality around you. You have to understand where you are. Second one is how to perceive health. You have to be healthy in order to function. So the first two are actually very related, because it's the first thing you have to learn. Where you are, and how your body works. And then a third segment comes, and that's the most important thing, number 3, which is learning a new skill first or fast. And segment number 4 is how to apply this skill in everyday life. And segment number 5 is about making money from applying the skill in the environment, which is described in segment number 4. And finally, we come to communication. And as I said, what's important about segment 1 is that Entrypoint philosophy, it's not about rules, but Entrypoint philosophy, you can imagine it as a filter, like these glasses. If imagine that thanks to this filter, that you can find out who tells you the truth or tells you the lie. So of course, such filter is not a guarantee of success in your life, but it will probably improve your chances in life. And that's exactly what Entrypoint philosophy is. It's various filters on how to perceive reality in such way that it is advantageous to yourself. And because you can also imagine, you can have someone who's who can perceive the reality, but if they think that they're Napoleon, it will be much harder for them to get through the reality. And also the reason I started publishing Entrypoint philosophy in this way is that I realized that it has something which I have not seen with any models of reality that I encountered. Because, as I said, when you first realize where you are, you have to somehow have a model of where you are and what's expected of you and how to behave in reality. And one of these models is, in a nutshell, called religion. So there's, the model of reality according to Christianity. There's model of reality according to Islam. There's model of reality according to the atheists. And what's important is, or for me, and Entrypoint philosophy, it's also a model of how to perceive reality. And one thing that strikes me as very, I'm actually astonished by it, is that Entrypoint philosophy is extremely universal. And because it's universal, it tells me that it probably has something to it. Because if you imagine Christianity, now if I teleport myself, let's say 2000 years BC, and that person asks me, what's the model of reality according to which I should live, and I give him Christianity, his life loses purpose. I cannot imagine that I would be motivated to live my life the way I live it because something will happen 2000 years from now. So Christianity, it's actually very effective for modern people, but not really much for people in the past. Same with Islam. But with Entrypoint philosophy, if I go to the past and someone asks me, hey George, what are my priorities in my life? And I don't care if it's a caveman, I would tell him, look, first you have to understand where you are and how to behave in this reality. Then you have to understand how your body works, what you should eat, what you shouldn't eat, so you have energy. And then you have to quickly learn a new skill so that you can hunt on this field, segment number 4, this mammoth. That's the money. And this is so universal that it actually doesn't only apply to humans, but it also, applies to animals. If you're a dog on this planet, Christianity and Islam will not help you at all. If we go 10,000 years into the past, Christianity and Islam will not help you at all. And if you ask the dinosaurs, Christianity will not help them at all. But if you have a baby dinosaur and they'll ask, what is this? Then first segment, you give them the model of reality where he is. Second, you tell him how the body works and what he should eat. And third, you teach him a skill, how he gets the energy. And energy meaning the money, the food. And it's the same for all the beings. And that's why I really think Entrypoint philosophy is really worth publishing. And if you want to know more about how to perceive reality, I really recommend segment number 1. And this led me to segment number 2, which is health. Now, big experience for me about health was doing water fasting. I did about 19 water fasts. They were the first one was 50 days. The longest one was 70 days, where I would drink water only. And I also got into studying health. So this brought me to understanding that our body is made for food that we ate, because human DNA is here for, let's say, around 300,000 years. From the 300,000 years, we were hunting for meat, so we were eating meat and green vegetables, and food was scarce. The reason it was scarce, and we know this, that the reason number 1 that humans died was that they died of hunger. So when they finally caught something, they ate it, and then they didn't eat 6 times a day as we eat the past 100 years. So diabetes, cancer, and many other sicknesses come from us eating sugar and eating it 6 times a day. So once I changed these habits, I dramatically improved my health and the way my body functions. So that's segment number 2. And a year ago, I was able to publish segment number 3, 4, and I'll even say 5, because they are so interconnected that originally I wanted to do them separately, but then I realized that they are extremely interconnected. Because initially, segment number 3 is about how to learn something fast. Now, from today's perspective, when the reality is changing every day, the number 1 skill you and your child and everyone should be working on is how to learn a new skill so fast, so that I can apply it in my survival tactics or skills in this world. So that initially I went to just discuss techniques, how to learn something fast, but then I realized that it's not only about the technique, how to learn something, but a big part is what you should choose to learn. Should I learn how to play the violin, or should I learn how to code in Python? And I realized that you have to look at the if you want to choose what to learn, you have to look at segment number 4, which is where are you going to apply this skill. Now, in segment 4, I talk about being an employee, being an employer, owning a company, working for yourself, which are various battlefields where you can apply the skills that you learn. But I guess the best analogy which I use in those 3 segments is with the mammoth hunter. So in those days, you would have to look at if you were going to hunt in a pond, you had to learn a different skill than if you were going to hunt on a grass field. And are you going to choose a pond where you can catch small fish, or are you going to go for the field where you can catch big animal? And based on all of this, you decide which skill to learn. And it's not only about if you want a big animal or the fish, but you have to also find out how much of the skill you have to learn in order to be able to catch that animal. Because what if with the fish, it's enough to learn 30% of the fishing technique and you can already catch the fish? Where with hunting the large animal, you would have to learn a skill up to 80%, which will take you longer. So all of this is interconnected, and I discussed it in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th segment. And now comes the 6th segment, which is communication and how to perceive communication. And the reason I put communication as the 6th segment is that it's an extremely important skill that we have. And from an Entrypoint point of view, again, what's the basic filter? So the way you look at communication is that anytime the other person is trying to communicate something to you, they always do it, always. It doesn't matter if it's knowingly or unknowingly, but they always do it to bend the reality in their favor. And this, I don't want it to sound selfish, but what it really means is that, that the fact that they're bending it in their favor doesn't mean that it's not also in the favor of others who are involved. But when every time someone tries to communicate with you, you always look at it from a perspective that you think to yourself, what are they seeking? Is it some like maybe political points because they want to, in your eyes, they want to look like they're friendly, or are they trying to find a mistake, or are they trying to if you look at it from a point of view that they're trying to bend the reality in their favor, immediately it gives you a different look at communication. And just so you know, in this part, I want to discuss various key aspects of communication. The communication topic is so huge that it would probably, it's endless. So in this video, I want to concentrate on several key insights that I have experienced, and also I will discuss communication from a point of view of business, because we just came off the segment 3, 4, and 5, which is about skills and how to apply them in life so that you can make money. And so I will, in this segment, talk about communication more from a business point of view. And then in segment 7 and 8, I will apply communication because it's more, those segments are more about personal communication, like with your spouse or with your child. So it will be more about the personal communication. But in this segment, I will talk about communication from a business point of view. And as I said, one key, every time you hear someone, it's always good to say I. They're making the sound because they want to bend the reality in their favor. And the second thing you also always have to realize is that when someone says something, the meaning of the message is not only the meaning of the words, but it's also the meaning based on the sound and let's say the politics around it. So you always have to realize that A, they're making the sound because they want to bend the reality in their favor, knowingly or unknowingly. And second, that it's not only what they are saying, but also how they are saying it. And another very key and interesting thing about communication, and why I'm surprised that communication is not more a subject that is studied and learned more, because A, there are many times in life that just because you say something, you will get killed, and in the same time, just because you say something, your life might be saved. And this just shows the power of communication. Again, communication is just sound, if it's spoken word, sound that someone makes in order to turn the reality in their favor, but the sound itself can actually save or kill someone. So and that's on the spectrum, that's like one dramatic effect. And on the other side, when you look at the most successful people in today's world, well, a big part of their success is their ability to be able to communicate their vision in such way that even though that big number of people know that their vision is bending the reality in their favor, they know, the mass, that if they come along, it will always be bended in their favor and they will get something out of it. So the ability to communicate is huge, and it's something that can really boost your life. Now there's one thing that what I said right now about communication, I think a lot of people already realize that, and you can see it around yourself that now everyone tries to communicate their ideas and their opinions, and there is something that is called free speech, and this really ties to communication. And one very interesting insight is why do we have free speech? Because everyone always fights for the right to have the free speech. Even people say, I don't agree with what you say, but I will fight for your right to say it. But we forget that the purpose of free speech is not that humans need to express themselves, and when they express themselves, they are much more productive in life. No. Freedom of speech is just like the scientific community. When someone has a new discovery or hypothesis, they write it down and they publish it in a format that the scientific community can read it and give their opinion on it, so that it's not that the person with the discovery is informing everyone this is how it is, but it's also and mainly that they are asking, hey, when you look at it, do you see that everything checks, or do you think that there might be a mistake in what I am talking about? And so the idea of free speech is to evolve the ideas. If I am making fire by making sparks, and I know that there is someone who can come up with a better idea, like we do it with a bow and a stick, then I want to hear this idea so I can improve. But I think now the free speech, it's always only about one-way communication. If someone is, saying something, but they never, they never want to get the feedback, because they should, when they say something, they should always say it with the framework that they are testing the idea, and they want to get the feedback. So otherwise it's just babbling and it's just noise. So I think that's also another important thing about communication, and freedom of speech is part of it, because it ties together with another part of free speech, which is opinion. And people say that everyone has the right to their opinion. Now, again, the great framework, the way to look at it is that opinion in reality is the result of a calculation, and the calculation is variables, which are facts, which are filtered to my head through the sensors that I have. So it's facts plus emotions plus what my brain adds to it. And if you notice today, when some people are excited about the diversity of opinions, but I think that the correct way, and that's the way I always look at it, when someone has a different opinion than me, I look at it in the same way as if I say 1 + 1 is 2, and he says 1 + 1 is 3. Or even a better analogy, imagine you have a calculator, you put in 1 + 1 and it says 2, and then you have another calculator where when you put 1 + 1, it would say 3. Then you would probably think there is something wrong with the calculator, with the algorithm that it uses. You would not think to yourself that it has a different opinion on the result of 1 + 1. And when you start looking at different opinions this way, then what will happen to you, the same thing that happens to me, which is I really want to find out what, how people got to the opinion that they had and how they got to the different result. And then we can examine the facts. We can examine, the feelings, the emotions, what the brain, puts them. There's an info, very interesting, and all of this many times, affects their opinion. So they can see the same fact, but because they have different emotion about the fact, they can then have a different opinion without even knowing. Now here it's good to mention, what's emotion. And I read it actually in this book, Sapiens, which I really recommend. And in that book, the author talks about a situation where that we are actually biocomputers. And there is a situation where there's a monkey, and the monkey sees banana on the tree, but also under the tree there is a lion. And because the monkey does not have the language skills, it doesn't have an internal dialogue which would go something like, is the lion had it already had lunch or not? Because if it already ate, I have a better chance of getting on the tree unnoticed. But if it's hungry, maybe it's just waiting for me. And is the banana ready, or should I wait for a few more weeks because maybe it's too green? It doesn't have this dialogue, but it gets, the monkey's brain gets all this information, subconsciously calculates everything, and then the result, it throws out in the form of an emotion, fear or hunger or adrenaline, and that's how it communicates the result. And since we are part of this genetic code, then our emotions work the same way, and many times can affect our opinions. Now, the reason I'm discussing this is that all of this ties to a very complicated thing in communication, and this is, I think, one of the major reasons why people have problem communicating, and that's we are unaware of all the filters that we have in our mind. Now, you probably heard of cognitive biases. Now, there's about 180 biases documented, and these are filters that are pre-programmed in our head, and they clutter the way we receive information. For example, confirmation bias is a bias that when you make a decision, the brain will start showing you only things which will confirm that decision, and it will not show you what will be in opposition to your decision. Same thing is when you make a decision that you want to invest into something, all of a sudden you see only positive things, but you don't see the negative things. And if you are not aware of these filters, then the decisions that you make are according to different reality than the reality that's actually out there. And then you make moves which you consciously think that you are making the best move, but you are not. And these filters are such a problem that's why we have different opinions. Because if in the end we would put down all the filters away, we would always get the same result. Because I think it's much more effective to approach everyone, every human, as being completely the same as I am, but the only difference is these filters that we have. And it's very important to discuss these filters so we can find out what the truth is. And it's also important because it's part of what I call Entrypoint dialectics, which is a part for me how I communicate during business meetings. And in this next part, I will describe to you how I use this model of Entrypoint dialectics to overcome all these filters and get the most effective way to do a business meeting that works for me. And as I said, it's called Entrypoint dialectics, and the simple model that you can imagine is that if let's say I'm in a meeting room, I'm representing a company, the person who's sitting in front of me is representing a company. So you can imagine that the metaphor is that we have a chessboard in front of us. I play the white pieces, the person plays the black pieces. But in Entrypoint dialectics and in this model, what we are doing is that the chess position that's on the board represents the situation that we are in. And we are not playing against each other, but together we are trying to find the best move. And there is one more catch, and the catch is that I only see the location of white pieces, and the other person sees the location of the black pieces. And in order for us to find the best move, I have to describe where my white pieces are. They have to describe where their black pieces are, so that together we can construct the whole position, and that way we can test variations and find together the best move. Now, this is logically so nice and so workable. Even the metaphor, if you take two grandmasters and they would describe their position of their pieces, I'm sure that the knowledge would be enough that they could always find together the best move. But in reality, in the meeting, when you approach it like this, it somehow doesn't work. And one of the reasons that it doesn't work is, as I was mentioning in the beginning, the filters. The person tells you, my queen is located on this spot. So when you're calculating the position, you keep thinking that he has the queen there. So in a variation to find the best move, you are calculating that at a certain point, if it comes to that, the queen will make its queen move. But when it gets to that, you realize that the person did not have queen there, that they had a pawn. And this is crazy, because then you think that were they lying to you? Well, and there are two situations. The more common one is the one that the person was not lying to you, but the information that they were giving to you was already filtered through their filters, which they did not realize. So they were then not giving you the correct information unknowingly. But in the same time, there are people who are knowingly pretending that they have a better piece than they in reality have. And those people you also have to be careful with, because again, the key is to completely understand the position and to make sure that the people are explaining their position the right way. And to be a little bit more concrete, what I had to do, is to make certain checkpoints that I have to check. A good example is, if you go to the bank, and in the bank you want to ask for mortgage, they will ask you if you have any property. Let's say the property that you have, the value is 20 million. So you tell them, or $1 million. So you tell them, yeah, the value of the property that I have is $1 million. So they will start processing the mortgage as if the property value that you have is 20 million. But all this time, the information is completely useless to them, because it will be real only until they send their certified contractor who will take a look at the property, and they will say, yes, the value is million. So the same way, I think that what really works for me is that every time they tell me what they have on their side, I always make sure that I somehow, for the key parts, really check what the reality is. Now, of course, I don't ask them for someone to come to evaluate things, but I make little checks. Like when I did a job interview, and the person in the job interview would tell you, that they had amazing skills in Microsoft Excel. Then I would ask them, can you tell me the concrete skill that you performed that you think is amazing? And what's really sad is it never happened to me that someone would tell me the skill. Every time they would, in the end, tell me that they just put it there because they felt that they had good skills. So, and this is very dangerous, because, again, if you're describing the position, black and white, and you don't see the black, then you really rely on how they describe the position so that you can learn how to make the best move. And another thing that really helped me to overcome this, and I know it almost sounds like it's an elementary school business tip, but to make meeting minutes. I'm surprised how many meetings happen and people don't do meeting minutes because they think it doesn't make sense, or it's a waste of time. But ever since I forced myself to do meeting minutes from every meeting, and it really improved the effectivity of the meetings. And I think that what's also important to with this model, I'm going to also give you an example how I open up the meeting, because of course when I go through the meeting, I don't tell the person about this chess analogy, but what I tell them right in the beginning, I show my cards. I tell them, look, my company does this, we have these services and these products. I check your company, I see that your company does these services and these products. I was thinking from what I know and how I see it, that we could cooperate in these areas. I think that in the end of this, let's say 2-3 week cooperation, it will have these results for you, these results for me. And the reason I'm meeting with you today is to discuss this model and to find out if we can find the next steps to find out if this cooperation could bring synergy into thanks to our cooperation. And when you say it like this, you actually force them into because I already laid the position, and then just talking with them, we're adding to it, so that in the end we can see the position and find out the correct move. But again, you always have to remember that people are affected by the filters which I discussed. So this is Entrypoint dialectics. This is what I use during my professional work. But of course, this model I also use when dissecting and finding out the opinions and how people got to their opinions. That's why I always, when I hear someone talk about freedom of speech, I always feel that this means that I want to hear what they say. And they are hungry to hear feedback to their. I think that freedom of speech is the right to publicly state your opinion. But then if it differs from opinions of others, then we should dissect it, because the reason you say the opinion is that you want to move the society forward. And you want to move society forward because in the end you communicate because you want to turn reality in your favor. And if everyone will be better off, you will be also better off. So this is communication on how to perceive communication at workplace. And hopefully soon I will be doing the 7th segment, which is how to perceive relationship. And this will be, meaning spouse or a business partner. And the 8th segment will be about how to perceive education of kids, how to bring up kids. And these two are also about communication, because with the people who you love and who are close ones, you also have to communicate, and you can also use this model, but I will discuss it in the future segments. So see you soon. Bye-bye.